Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
We all know as managers that change is the biggest thing that we're going to face into. So this week's show, I'm going to look into change management and the best way to deliver for you. Well, without any more delay, let's get on with this week's show. Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I hope everyone is well and we are delivering the results through our people and getting what we need from our businesses. Sorry, there's been a bit of a break. I've been away learning, growing and having a little bit of a holiday, which we all need now and then, don't we? When we've been so stressed in our jobs or not stressed. Maybe you're using all these tools and techniques to be absolutely perfect and have no stress in the world. But I doubt that very much. So change. I've done a few on change in the past, but change keeps coming up all the time. I think this year has been a year of change for me. I've gone through working for a company, leaving that company, deciding to go on my own, working for two other companies, which I've really enjoyed, and then those contracts come to the end, and then you're doing little, but waiting for the next contract to come on, so you learn and you try and grow. And I think change is one of those things that, especially this year, and the companies I've been working for, they want that. They want that change element in their business because nothing stays still. If you're staying still, they go backwards, they always say. And I really do believe that now because the businesses that you know and I know over the years that have been around and have now disappeared have basically not seen the change coming. Or, to be fair to them, seen the change coming, but then have not had the tools to be able to react and make the change work for them. So that's what we're going to do. So everyone says change is inevitable and you can't avoid it. You're right, and most people seem to hate the idea of change. I mean, I've been in some businesses where the persons who I've spoke to go, oh, I'm not against change. No, I'm not against change. I think change is really positive, and then absolutely hate any idea of change coming their way. And I think that's just a human thing. Now we know that we get this idea of cognitive entrenchment, which is where you kind of basically go, this is what I do, and you are going to stick to that, and I'm not going to change the way. And you see that a lot, don't you? You can take that from the jobs that people do, and they stay at those jobs, to the way that people even travel to work in the morning. They'll go a certain route, the things they eat for the dinner, or the lunch, depending how posh you are. You can see that, can't you? People have the same things over and over again, and I'm no different. I do the same. And to save the brain the work, that's what we do. The brain looks at shortcuts to make it easier. And if those decisions are minor and simple, then the brain can do that. But of course, that means that sometimes we miss the idea of changing in another sense. We all think that others are no good at change, and like I said, that they are, but obviously it isn't. The sense of it is that most people really do struggle to have that change mentality. And so let's be honest with ourselves. You can nag people, you can order people, you can use all sorts of other energy-sapping practices to get people to change, but unless they want to change, you can't change people unless they want to change. That's the way it is. And even if you change a business, those people are going to resent it, going to hate it, and sometimes they'll leave or they'll just deliver poorly for you. So you've really got to think of it. Look at people smoking. The risk of cancer has been linked for so long, but we still have smoking. Now we've got vaping. We don't know what vaping's going to do, but we've got this idea that change is something that it can easily be done. You can't even change yourself sometimes. You know yourself that you should be saving more for retirement. You should be eating a little bit less, maybe drinking a bit less, maybe smoking a bit less, but you naturally don't do it because you like the stimulus, you like what it gives you, you like the security. So how do we change it? Well, like I said, I'm sorry to disappoint, but you can't change people. They need to know that they want to change. So what do you do as a leader? What can you do? Well, you've got to show them that change and let them see that the change is going to be positive for them. So what does that future look like with them in there? Now, unfortunately, sometimes that future isn't with them in there, that the pace is not going to exist, that things are going to change massively. It doesn't matter what you're being told. The change is being planned somewhere above you, and it'll come down and it'll take you away, and the shock will be immense. That's the way that sometimes it does work. But most of the time, when you're talking about changes, you're talking about making people be less fearful of the change and actually want to make the change and be part of that change, be part of the future of that company or the process. Now, 90% of people will think that's fine, and as long as you bring them on, there'll be 10% who just won't want to change. They've always done it that way. They'll leave, and there's not much you can do with that as a leader. People want to know what's in it for them. How is it negatively or positively going to change them? So you've got to, as a leader, paint that picture for them. You've got to paint what their part is going to be in this future that you want to see. Now, it's very difficult if you can't tell people what that future is, if there's certain things that stop you telling them what the future is going to be, because that's been told that you can't say it. So it is hard for you as a leader to articulate what the future looks like. But if you can, and you're being honest, and you see those people as being part of that future, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. If you've kept those people, and those people are part of your team, and you've managed them as being good management should do, then there's no reason why you can't get them to look into the future. But of course, remember, people will not change or modify until the desire to change becomes larger than the desire to remain the same. And that is the same with everything in life. Let's say that again. People will not change or modify until the desire to change becomes larger than the desire to remain. Remember this idea of being the same. Humans don't like change, home or work, but leaders need to make change happen. Now, there's a very famous curve, the Ross curve, you might have known it as, or the Kubler-Ross curve, a change curve, and it starts with things like shock. So when you hear a change, you naturally become shocked by what's been told. Then you go into this idea of denial. It's not going to happen. It's just all fake news, to point a famous person who says it a lot at the minute. But, they deny it. Denial. It's not going to happen. Then they become angry and blame. This isn't fair. Like fairness has anything to do with business sometimes, but they get angry. They blame people. And then, of course, you get to the idea of it's a fear thing. Like I said, what's in it for me? Is this the end for me? Is this my career gone? Is this my financial ruin? Am I going to be able to pay the bills? And you start to self-blame maybe. Did I do something wrong? Have I made this happen? Then you're looking at trying to bargain it in. Can I do something to get out of this? Can I swap? Should that other person go down the road if it's around redundancies and not me? And that can lead to a depression and a confusion. You then find you're becoming the other end of it. You start to look at exploring and examining and accepting what could be happening. Then you look at the decisions and are they part of it? And finally, you obviously get to the acceptance. So very famous idea of this curve where you get shock, denial, anger, fear, depression, then acceptance of the decisions, and then integration and acceptance. So what do you do as a manager if you know people are going to go through this curve? And when I've seen people going through this curve, some people go through it really quickly, maybe too quickly, and actually have to go through it a few times. Others, they take the time and go back, so you think they'll be coming out of it and they'll shoot back into fear and depression. It's a very difficult thing for humans. Remember, these are not machines. You're not turning them on and changing the program, updating the software. You're not doing that. You're doing a people, and people will need time to process this. And that's what I mean about getting them involved in this as soon as you can. There's 3 stages, or 4 stages actually, that you need to be aware of when you're doing this. First one, as I kind of said a few times, is information. How much information can you give people? There's lots more I'd love to give people that sometimes you can't. But how much information can you give them? So that's where we're going to be going. What's it going to look like in the future? How their part is in it? How do you support them? So how do you give them the support to get there? Is that time? Is that more information? Is that involvement in some way? Third stage is around this idea of direction. So you've set your direction. You've given the information. Right, guys, I'm the leader. Follow me. This is the follow me stage. Come on, follow me. We're going this way. This will be the best for the business. And it can be hard because you might be in this change cycle yourself and thinking, might not be best for the business. Actually, I think this isn't the best for the business. But you've got to play your part. That's your role. do it, go forward. Then you're into the fourth part, which is encouragement. Encouragement of the change that's happened, helping them through it. Don't be one of those leaders that just says, oh, what a mess. God, could have told them this is going to happen. I've been there. We can all be human about it and go, yeah, I thought that wasn't going to work. The one at the side going, oh, could have told you that. Could have told you that was going to happen. Don't be that person. Now, the change curve is very popular. It breaks it down and it makes the project stages very straightforward. But of course, it's been established from the 60s. So it has some lengths and it has some strengths and it has some limitations because not everyone will follow it through. You can't go in right Monday morning, everyone will be shocked with the new decision. By Tuesday, they will be in denial. Wednesday, we'll follow through anger. Thursday will be fear and we'll be depressed by Friday. Don't work that way. So be aware that that's just this idea of shock, denial and anger and fear. That might not actually follow it perfectly. It's a tool, but it's from the 70s. Things have changed immensely. But the stages of informing and in supporting, directing and encouraging do stand through projects and obviously through any big changes you've got in there. You need to make sure that when you're consulting this change is look at what change can affect your business. So if you're on the curve of a senior position especially, you've got to look out there and go, well, what is going to really hit us future planning? This is that strategical planning idea of looking forward, because the change that's coming, they're going to be coming in lots of different ways. And this idea of evolution of change as a constant is something you need to be always considering. So you'll have heard of PESTLE, or you've got this idea of a political, economical, social, technical, environmental, legal. What is going to change your business? And sometimes it's good to look back historically and see what came along and see what changes that either did or didn't get seen. Did they use these models? The models are great in theory. And I like a bit of theory myself, but are they being used in practice? I don't think I've ever sat down in a boardroom, or any room really, and gone through a PESTLE properly, apart from when you're doing it for a course. So now, obviously business leaders are different and maybe some do it, but I've not seen it happen. So is it happening or is it not happening? You can do it because you can look at your own business and go, well, I'm in X. So does that mean that politically and economically or socially I'm going to get affected? What's new technology? That's a massive one at the minute. Think of AI, that coming on. If you're in a very much a data transformation job where you take data from one and place it into another and don't really add a lot of value, surely that's going to get replaced by some sort of artificial intelligence. So what is that going to threaten my position personally? What's in it for me? Remember, change is about what's in it for me. And of course, remember, people will not change or modify until the desire to change becomes larger than the desire to remain. And sometimes it's too late. You forget that. And before you know it, you're swamped. You're in that meeting of, oh, we're getting rid of that in my department. Oh, that job's not needed anymore. Wow. So let's have a think of it. So we've gone through this idea of change as a person. How do you then do it as a process? How do you embed change? Well, there's a couple of different models for embedding proper change. Firstly, let's take a 5-step, easy enough to do. 5's a pretty good number. You've got this idea of preparing for change. This is the idea of awareness, driving encouragement, getting people on board. Again, very hard if you can't tell people what's coming, but if you can, preparing them for it. Then you've got to craft this idea of a vision, a plan for change. So that's around the KPIs, the stakeholders, the scope of the change. Then you're getting in implementing. How many of your team are going to be involved in it? Is there any big roadblocks that are going to come along with this change? What is the strategical goals? Small changes, probably not going to be a problem. Bigger changes where you're doing massive ones, say implementation of a new computer system. You put an SAP system in, can be a massive change to where people have worked. And sometimes it can be not for the best, because in the first instance, a new system usually doesn't have a lot what the old system had. And saying that, people are used to the older system, so it's a lot easier for them to do it. So when you go into this implementation stage, keep the strategical goals. When you get to your fourth one, it's about embedding this change. So you've done the change, you're looking at how you can make it work, how you make sure that it's embedded properly. This is where you get the slip. So when you get to stage 4 of this process, you get people slipping back. If they can use the old system, they will. If they can do the old ways, they will. And that's when management really has to be tough. It has to really almost turn that off. So if there's a system, a computer system, you switch it off. You don't accept the report in that format, you bounce it back, even though you might feel like you've been a bit of an ass. That's how it works. Don't let it backslide. Don't let your plans slip, because if you let at stage 4 of this go back, you're going to be losing the whole thing. So stage 4 is embedded the change, make sure it happens, make sure you enforce it. And then stage 5 is reviewing it. So review the progress, analyse the results. If there's any tweaks, go back round it, go back to the first one. So the first one, of course, preparing for the change. If you look at that process, a 5-step, so preparing for change, crafting that vision and plan for the change, implement it, embed it and review, you can use those cycles as a project manager or as a people manager or anything really. Because if you're preparing for change, you're using your pestles, you're using your vision to see what's coming. You're then crafting that vision and planning for the change using your KPIs. You're then implementing it. So how do I implement it? How do I get my strategic goals? Where are the roadblocks? 4th one, as I've said, the embedding change, making sure there's no backslip, getting it in. That's the hard one. And then review, progress and analyse any of the results and make sure the project has done what it means to do. Okay, there's a lot to take in then, and obviously change is a whole subject on its own, but I just thought I'd give you a flavour of where we are. You know, people will hate change. Be no word of a lie. Whatever change you want to do, even as small as moving something in the office can become a massive change. I had a big row in one of the companies about people changing desks. It would have been easier to move people around, make them into little units. Nope. One of them liked the window. Somebody didn't like to sit under the air conditioner. That kind of change you think's easy. It isn't. It's people. People have problems with change. People will not change or modify until the desire to change becomes larger than the desire to remain. Remember that. Humans don't like it inside and outside, but leaders need to deliver it. But you cannot change people unless they want to change. That's where you've got to make sure you're aware of the idea of the curve with the shock, denial, anger, fear, depression, sometimes confusion. And then you've got to look how you can inform them, support them, direct them and encourage them. Well, on that point, I would encourage you to send me some feedback, please, to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. I answer all your questions. I will answer them myself, which is brilliant. There's no robots involved. And of course, feedback is a gift, so I'd be interested to know what you thought's good, what you thought's bad, what you thought is working and what you thought isn't. So that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.